A great custom location for mounting aftermarket speakers within a vehicle is the A-pillar. Right now I'm actually in the middle of a project, and in some of the previous videos I've explained the benefits of mounting the speakers in the A-pillar, how to actually aim the speakers, and even how to make these acrylic speaker rings. In this video we're going to mount the speaker rings to the A-pillar. We're going to make modifications to the A-pillar to prep it for fiberglass, and we're going to stretch some fabric material to start giving this pillar some shape. Hook jab! Let's fab. So this is our A-pillar right here. Of course, our first step is we want to take this out of the vehicle. I've got those taken out of the vehicle, and you'll notice, wait, what? There's 4. Why are there 4? Well, that's because, guys, I have went to the junkyard and got an extra pair. I can't recommend this enough. It's a good idea to keep your old panels just so that you have them. So if you want to undo the install, it's easy to do. So on the back side of these, I've actually marked the 2 that are original. I'm going to set these aside and store them for later. So on these panels, this part here, this is towards the top of the headliner. This part here is down towards the bottom of the dash. I know that the A-pillar area that we're going to modify is going to come about halfway up. So what we need to do is I actually want to scruff this up before we even get started. We're just going to use some sandpaper in order to rough everything up. That way all of our different materials that we're going to put on this are going to stick better. I've spent a bunch of time sanding these. These are nice and roughed up now. So now what I need to do is I've already cleaned these off with water, and we're going to install them back into the vehicle. Got them back in place here. There's a couple of different marks that I'm going to need to make. The first is I'm going to make a line on the A-pillar itself along the bottom here, and that's to mark the point that I can't extend past. And if you hear a little chain rattling, that's my shop buddy, Hertz. What's up, buddy? You're not allowed in here. I like using this special pattern marker when I do this because it allows me to get real nice and tight into that corner. So I'll link this down in the video description along with all the other materials and tools that I'm using in this video. So we've got that first bottom line covered. Now what we need to do is, in one of the previous videos we talked about doing some testing in order to determine the best speaker location. And for me, it's as far forward, and I know where I actually want to aim these, but right now we're just kind of getting a rough idea where the speaker is going to sit on the panel. So kind of envision the middle of the speaker, and we're going to make a mark on the A-pillar at that point. Doing this is kind of a combination of switching back and forth between the speaker and the speaker ring that we've made in an earlier video. Again, guys, if you want to catch up on this build, you can check out all the videos in this playlist. I'll put a link up in the corner. I've got all my marks made here, and you can see I've made similar marks on each side. And I also made those 2 dashes up above, and the reason I made those is I'm actually going to need to recess the ring slightly into the panel. In other words, this top part of the ring here is going to actually be down inside the panel. It's not going to be sticking out above, it's actually going to be down in. So I know that I want to cut a hole here, and I also know that right about where that dash is, that's kind of where I want the edge of my ring to start. So I'm going to need to cut out that area as well. Now there is one problem here. You can see that we have some support structure on the back. I want to leave the majority of this support structure in the way, but it does look like our dash right here. If we rotate around, you can see that we are going to have to cut out some of this support structure here. I'm going to start with using this hole saw in order to make that first hole centered with our speaker ring. Now to cut my second hole. Hertz is inspecting. I can now connect these 2 circles just using a handsaw. So we'll clean up these edges in a little bit, but now you can see if I take the speaker ring, I can actually nest it down inside there. So that's going to give me a point of contact to actually hold this speaker ring in place, and it's going to make things look more even and kind of like they belong. It's not like this ring is going to be way out here on some big bulge. It's actually kind of nested down into the panel. Since I'm back in the vehicle, I'm also going to do a quick speaker test fit just to make sure that the speaker fits like I planned for it to. So now comes the challenging part of the project where we have to actually mount the acrylic speaker rings to the A-pillar panels. To do this, I'm going to be using a bunch of different wooden dowels along with some hot glue. Now what I like to do is I'll actually cut a bunch of different lengths of the dowels so that I have them on hand in the vehicle. I'm going to start with locating the front edge of the speaker ring where the ring actually makes contact with the panel. Now in order to know exactly where the ring is aiming, I'm using my 3D printed speaker aiming tool that I designed. A bunch of you guys were asking about this in the last video, so I now have them for sale on my website if you'd like to check it out. What's also nice about this is we can make sure that we get some nice symmetry from side to side. I'll hold the ring in place and I'll allow that front edge of the hot glue to dry, and then I'll start attaching other dowels. Once I have a couple of dowels added, the assembly will be strong enough that I can remove it from the vehicle, and then I can strengthen it even more, adding some more dowels. So now that we have the rings mounted, we need to move on to stretching the fabric over the assembly. This stretchy fabric here is going to give me a surface to apply the fiberglass resin to. So the shape that I'm going to make using this stretchy fabric is going to define what the shape of the final pillar will be. Now this material that I'm using is called grill cloth, and I'm going to put a link once again for you guys down in the video description. What I like about this material is I can see through it to that line that I made earlier on the panel. I can lay the fabric over the panel and I can then apply a bead of CA glue over it. I'm using Mobile Solutions thin CA glue. I definitely recommend that you use the thin glue because it will easily soak through the material and adhere to the panel. So now that the bottom line is secured, I can stretch the material up over the top of the ring. From here, the process is a matter of stretching the material over the different parts of the panel and then securing it in place using the CA glue. Now while I'm stretching the material, I want to take a quick second to thank our show sponsor, Audio Control. When we're taking all this time to do this custom fabrication, we want to make sure that we can also control the electrical signal and tune that signal that is sent to our speakers. Audio Control has a full lineup of different devices that allow us to take the signal from something like a factory radio or even from an aftermarket head unit and control it and manipulate that signal before we send it to our amplifiers. These devices range from standalone digital signal processors to amplifiers that have digital signal processor capabilities built in. I've done a ton of different videos on some of these different items. You can check that out at the playlist here. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about Audio Control and how they make good sound great, you can check out their link at audiocontrol.com down in the video description. At the top of the panel, I've drawn two more lines which allow me to know how I want to mold my shape and where to secure it with the glue. Once the material is completely stretched around the ring and around the panel and all secured in place, I can start cutting the excess material away by using a razor knife. Now, if you watched the video where I fabricated the speaker rings, you will remember that I made this small notch up on the top of it, and that's to allow me to easily cut the material away. This will also give us a little bit of clearance once I start building up with the fiberglass resin and body filler in order to make the top of the ring sit nice and flush. If you guys missed out on that video, don't forget that I have all these videos in a playlist so that you can find them easily and check them out. I finalized trimming the material by just simply running the blade along the edges of the panel itself as well. Now that the material is fully trimmed and it's all shaped, it's a good idea to check fitment within the car. You'll want to make sure that while you are reinstalling the panel that you don't have any interferences with the dash and your new fabric stretched shape. In this case, we are good to go, so we can move on to the next step. So in the next video, we are going to be applying the fiberglass resin, and I'm going to show you guys some different techniques that we can use in order to add a ton of strength to this material and to this panel and make sure that it's good and strong. If you enjoyed this video and you found it useful, I know all the YouTubers are always saying this, but it really does help. If you could just take a quick second to hit that like button, it'd mean a lot to me and it helps the channel as well. If you have any questions about the process, I'm all about us being a community. I'd love to help you out, so you can post one of those or let me know something that you would like to add down below. Finally, if you're new here and you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the update videos for this project or any of my future videos, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Hit the subscribe button, click that little bell so that you'll be notified when I upload future videos. A special thanks goes out to Audio Control, and as always, a special thanks goes out to John, Brian, Ali, Steve, Jerry, Emmanuel, Truman, James, and Colin, and the rest of the Patreon support team. A big thanks to all those dudes. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.